Now, the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei comes at the end of a turbulent period in Iranian history. He came to power in 1989 and maintained a vice-like grip on his country as it took on the United States of America, which the regime described as, quote, the Great Satan.
For decades, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was the most powerful man in Iran, the supreme leader. Some considered him a hero of the Islamic Revolution. In the eyes of others, he was a brutal dictator. Born in Mashhad, the religious heartland of Iran, Ali Khamenei began training as an Islamic cleric at only 11. At the time, Iran was a secular country ruled by the autocratic Shah. Khamenei joined the religious opposition led by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, one of his teachers, and was arrested several times by the Shah's secret police. In 1979, Khomeini returned from exile after Iranians had overthrown the Shah and established the Islamic Republic. Ali Khamenei quickly rose through the ranks of the new system. When Khomeini died 10 years later, Khamenei was among the candidates to replace him, although he did not hold the religious rank necessary for Iran's top job, as even he himself pointed out.
I am not qualified to become the supreme leader. I know that, and you gentlemen know it too. You have to cry tears of blood for any Islamic society which is even contemplating electing me as their leader.
And yet they voted for him. So at just 50, Khamenei became supreme leader. In the decades to come, Ali Khamenei wielded ultimate authority over politics and religion. He intensified the enmity towards Israel and the United States and repeatedly denied the Holocaust. He reinforced the Islamic Republic's strict religious framework and expanded its grip on everyday life, curtailing free speech and building a powerful surveillance and security apparatus to enforce loyalty to the ideals of the Islamic Revolution. And he reshaped the Revolutionary Guard into a powerful force overseeing civil society and suppressing dissent. A role that would come into sharp focus in 2009, when hundreds of thousands took to the streets protesting against what they considered a rigged presidential election. In the years that followed, Ali Khamenei faced many more waves of mass protest, sparked by economic hardship, soaring fuel prices and growing water shortages. Then in 2022, the death of a young woman held by the so-called morality police sparked the most profound challenge to Khamenei in his Islamic Republic in decades. Hundreds of anti-government demonstrators were killed, countless were detained and tortured. Khamenei blamed the protests on enemies overseas and defended the violence by his Revolutionary Guard. Preserving the Islamic Republic was most important for him.
I have a poor soul, a broken body, and the little bit of dignity you have given me, I will sacrifice it all for the revolution and for Islam.
But when the Islamic Republic did come under attack in 2025, Ali Khamenei disappeared. As Israeli and US airstrikes targeted Iran's nuclear program and killed its most senior commanders, the supreme leader only appeared in pre-taped statements, hiding in an unknown location, unreachable even to top officials. In one of the Islamic Republic's greatest crises, Ali Khamenei left behind a power vacuum and lost much of the little trust in him that remained.
We have DW's U.S. correspondent Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber joining us. Benjamin, what has the White House and others said about Khamenei's killing?
We have not heard from President Trump following his longer post on Truth Social confirming the death of the Iranian supreme leader, and this pre-recorded message, of course, earlier when he announced the start of this major operation, this coordinated airstrikes with the Israeli Air Force. We have had other reactions, one of them by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He called this the most lethal, the most complex and most precision aerial operation in history. But of course, there are many questions that are still remaining. There is growing criticism, not only on the lack of transparency, but also what was the reason to do them now. Because only a couple of months ago, we had President Trump saying that Iran's nuclear program had been obliterated, with Steve Witkoff, one of the main negotiators of the U.S., recently saying that Iran is a week away from having these bomb-grade materials. And that's, of course, something that especially the critics are wondering now how that could happen with these contradicting information coming out of the White House.
Can we talk a bit about Congress? Aren't they the ones with the power to declare war?
They are. It's up to Congress, it's up to their authority to decide when the United States is going to war. And that's also when we look at the reactions that you could say basically broke sharp along partisan lines. Republicans largely praising this attack as decisive action against what they call is Iran's nuclear threat, also threats against Israel. But when we look at the other side, the Democrats critical, calling this unconstitutional, saying that risks a wider war in the region, with many also demanding a congressional vote under the so-called war power resolution. So we can expect that there will be some heated debates here in the U.S. Capitol on Monday on why the U.S. president once again decided on military actions without getting authorization from Congress.
Now, in his almost 8-minute speech, President Donald Trump explained the rationale for war. How are Americans responding to U.S. action, and do you think they're buying Trump's reasoning?
So on the streets, I'd say there was a mixed reaction. There were many groups protesting also close to the White House. One of them, the first one, protesting against this military escalation, a coalition of several small organizations here in the United States. There was another one, especially members of the Iranian diaspora living here in the United States, happy about these strikes, thanking the U.S. president. So there was a mix there. But it's important to see the context, especially on what President Trump has been campaigning for. One of his, you would say, main campaign promises was to end the United States' endless war. But if we look at the actions, they're very different from these words and from these promises, because since he returned to the White House during his second term, the United States and President Trump has decided on strikes in 7 different countries. So we had Operation Midnight Hammer, we had also Yemen, we had Nigeria on these alleged ISIS fighters that happened during Christmas Day. Then we had this other operation, this other military strike on Iran called Operation Midnight Hammer. So it won't be easy for the White House to sell this to this base that voted for Trump, the self-declared peace president who promised to end the U.S.'s endless war. And as many are seeing and following what's happening in the Middle East, with yet another conflict breaking out in the region.
DW's U.S. correspondent Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber, thank you for staying up to speak to us. And now we have DW correspondent Mario Müller in Jerusalem. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is dead, and the Revolutionary Guard has already vowed to, quote, punish his murderers. What does his death and a possible regime change mean for Israel?
Well, it's a very significant moment for Israel. Many call it a historic turning point. The Ayatollah, the Iran supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was seen here as the most powerful architect of hostility, of decades-long hostility, funding and backing Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and other proxies in the region that have inflicted a lot of pain on Israel. So this is a huge success, a military success for Israel here. They've also managed to kill the leader of the Revolutionary Guards, Major General Mohammed Pakpour. And so these deaths are very significant for Israel, but it doesn't mean there will be an automatic regime change. There have been reports, for example, by the New York Times, who had good sources inside the Iranian leadership, and they said that there was, for example, the Secretary of Iran's National Security Council, Ali Larijani, who had been apparently who is a close associate of the Ayatollah and other leaders, and he was instructed to come up with a succession plan. So he apparently made some preparations. There are some preparations in place, as it seems. The Iranian state media, they said this morning that Iran's president, the head of the judiciary, and a jurist of the Guardian Council will be in charge during this transitional period. So this is not an automatic regime change just because major political figures have been killed in these joint attacks by the Americans and the Israelis.
And Mariel, several places in Israel were also struck by missiles overnight, I understand. What more can you tell us?
Yes, so overnight we've heard so many air raid alerts. Almost every couple of hours there was an air raid alert. So we've been also hearing air defenses here working hard to intercept drones, intercept missiles. One of these ballistic missiles struck an apartment block in Tel Aviv, basically reducing it to rubble. We've seen dramatic images coming from their emergency services on the scene, pulling out, for example, a 2-month-old baby, according to Israeli media. 7 of the 27 injured were apparently also children, and these injured people were transported to 3 different hospitals in the area. So, this was the largest strike so far that has been reported in Israel overnight.
Got it. We'll have to leave it there. DW correspondent Maria Müller from Jerusalem, thank you very much. Journalist Emily Gordine joins me now from Dubai. Emily, we're hearing reports of new explosions there. What can you tell us?
That's right. This morning we heard loud explosions over the skies of Dubai, and the Emirati authorities later confirmed that this was the sound of successful, as what they call it, interceptions of several drones that were launched from Iran on Dubai. Now, some of that debris did land in some of the courtyards in homes in Dubai, and 2 people were injured, but the authorities say that these people received the necessary medical attention. Over the last 24 hours, Iran launched about 137 missiles and over 200 drones on the United Arab Emirates. That is a significant amount a significant attack on the United Emirates. Most of these were intercepted. In some cases, they did cause damage, such as on Palm Jumeirah, one of the artificial islands in Dubai, where missile debris hit a luxury hotel. Dubai Airport, as well as Abu Dhabi Airport, have also been damaged by some of the incoming fire. And the people in Dubai so far, it's making them nervous. I think that's safe to say. The authorities are protecting some sort of calm, but the people here, the ones that I've been able to speak to, said they did expect the United Emirates to be targeted, but they expected the US bases that are located in the United Arab Emirates to be targeted. The fact that now civilian infrastructure is being hit is coming at a huge shock to them.
Yeah, and of course, Dubai is a major flight transport hub connecting Europe to Asia, of course. So how have the Emirates been responding to these attacks? What are their options?
Well, the Emiratis have condemned the strikes. They've called it a flagrant violation of national sovereignty and a clear breach of international law. They're trying to project a sense of stability, though. That they have the situation under control, that the majority of the incoming fire has been intercepted. The leader of Dubai was also last night seen at a horse racing event. And largely, I think at this point, the goal is to sit this out, to hope that the air defences, they're also receiving significant support from the Americans there, are able to fend off most of the attacks. There is no talk so far of retaliation. You have to keep in mind that some of that the UAE does host US military bases, and so far they've not given them the okay to target Iran from these military bases. But there's no talk of that at this point. What we're seeing, though, is some voices from people close to the Emirati government saying that this does have the potential to cause significant damage to the long-term relationship between the UAE and Iran. Keep in mind, Dubai and the United Arab Emirates as a whole have been projecting this sort of sense of this the country as an oasis of stability, and that now, through these attacks, is getting a serious dent in that in its reputation.
Right. And you talked about their desire to hopefully sit this out, but there is that concern that the Gulf could be pulled directly into this conflict. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's right. And I mean, we've been hearing over the last few weeks that the Gulf countries have reportedly been trying to dissuade the Trump administration from going after an attack on Iran. At this point, though, I think, so we do have these American bases dotted all across the Gulf. And so far, none of the Gulf countries has come out saying that, yes, we will give the Americans the green light to start launching attacks on Iran from these military bases. And I think the reason for that is because this would constitute a clear escalation that would drag them into this conflict as a more active partner. And that's the last thing these countries want. These countries want an off-ramp. They want de-escalation. And I think what we're going to see over the next few days is very much these countries trying to put pressure on the Americans to, make this a short conflict and not drag this out. And I think, you could argue that this is a calculation that the Iranians are making, that they are trying to put more pressure on these Gulf states that are seen as allies of the Americans, to put pressure on them if you turn up the heat on these countries, they will put more pressure on their American partners. But at this point, it's not clear whether that will actually work out at all.
Journalist Emily Gordine in Dubai, thank you very much.